Welcome to Go Measure 3D's reaction to the new release of Artec Cloud. Today, we want to talk about what it is, how it works, and our first reactions, as well as our findings. So we'll start with introducing what it is. Paul is on the line here with me, and we want to talk a little bit about how this fits into the Artec product lineup. But if you haven't looked at it already, Artec Cloud is an online solution to store, process, and share your scan data. So as you can see, my screen is shared here. If you go to cloud.artec3d.com, you can look at the overview and the pricing. And today we're going to show you live how some of these features work and how we like its integration into the Artec Leo. So for our first reactions, Paul, do you want to start?
Yeah, so with the Artec Cloud, it's a very interesting concept, and you've got two main portions of it. You have the collaboration side and the processing side, right? So with the collaboration side, to talk about that first, one of the things that I really like about Artec Cloud is it's a very easy place to store and share your scan files. So this can be for internal use, external use inside of companies from a support standpoint. And with this collaboration tool, what it allows you to do is very easily scan a project and then upload this to the cloud and not only share it with other people that have Artec Cloud collaboration or processing accounts, but with anyone. So there's a free account option that allows you to take a scan of an object and share that with somebody so they can see that scan data in real time. If you need to make changes or edits, you can view those models. You can add comments as well as attach notes. So in the cloud, we can upload a scan file. And if this is part of a much larger project, we can add attachments, whether it's PDF documents, if we want to add CAD files or other resources, that's going to be able to allow us to make whatever project we're working on a lot easier. So this could be something as simple as kind of like what Art's showing here. If we're just scanning a model for a customer and we want to share that with them before we send them the final results, if they want any changes or tweaks to be made, all the way up to if you're working on a really large reverse engineering or inspection process, that could be a relatively complex project from start to finish, where you want one place to be able to store all of the data and resources for that project. So there's a lot of really interesting things just on the collaboration side. And then when we get into the processing side, there's even more that we can talk about as far as not only being able to upload scan files, but actually to be able to process scan data on the cloud, which is going to really easily allow us to not have a robust computer with us, especially for a use case in using the Leo. We can upload that data from the Leo directly to the cloud with an internet connection, and then process that data on any machine, any computer, anywhere. So those are some really, really interesting ideas. And what we'll talk about here in a little bit is we've been using this for the past couple of months, and it's changed a lot in our workflows. So what about you, Art? What are your first reactions to the Artec Cloud?
One big thing for me is the ability to run this on any browser. So now we can use Artec processing on a Mac, which is great, as well as the ability to process multiple projects at once. So you can set the server to do a registration and a fusion, exit a project, enter another project, and then just do that all at the same time. So you no longer have one computer that is tied up doing some processing. And I like that there are free accounts for team members to view and comment on the projects. So you no longer need an Artec license to view a project because you can do it online. And to show you a little bit of what it looks like, as you can see, you can import any project and it will be converted to a cloud format. And then when you open a project, you can see that just like in Artec Studio, we have scan data that we can look at, and we can take that scan data, we can do a registration on it, we can do an outlier removal, we can also run a fusion, we can do all kinds of adjustments in here, like erasing parts of the scan, we can defeature, transform, align things in here, and of course, then we get a final fusion that we can export to a variety of project file types, scans, or even STL models. So OBJ, STL, looks like we've got a number of options here. So I think it's quite a big leap in software for Artec. It's making this licensing option much more flexible. And also for collaboration, for us, for example, as a company who sells and supports these scanners, we can use Artec Cloud to look at clients' files. We can help them fix scan data or discuss how to make that better. And of course, for our clients, when they are in the field, they can take the Leo, for example, and they can hit upload on the scanner. So the new update to the Leo includes an option to, once it's on a Wi-Fi hotspot, whether it's from your phone or any kind of Wi-Fi, you can hit upload and it'll go directly to the cloud. So someone else can then receive that file, process it, and actually process multiple projects and multiple scans from the scanner without the use of a PC.
Sure.
So,
yeah, well, and one of the points that you brought up that I think is really unique for this is it allows us to share scan files with anyone, right? So one of the key things that you see with 3D scanners is as they are becoming more and more popular, there's still a little bit of a learning gap where if you are an engineer or someone working with a scanner internally to your company, you may find it useful to share that data with somebody else that's maybe not as familiar with these processes, right? So they don't know the best way to view an STL or an OBJ mesh. So if you send that to them, you may have to go through a few steps for them to be able to really easily take a look at that data. Whereas with the cloud, all they need is a free account, and you can share that directly with them. They can open it up on a browser and just take a look at that model as easily as we're taking a look at the model here. So from a simplicity of being able to share information either with people internally to a company or with clients, I see that as a really huge benefit on being able to take scan data and make it more useful for more people, right? So that's a really interesting concept to see how it rolls out, and for us to start using internally, as well as to see our customers start to use.
yeah, so let's talk about more of our findings with the software.
Sure.
Kind of to follow up with what you're saying, we've had clients say, what are some more flexible licensing options? I purchased one scanner and I want to have one of my employees scan data and I want to have another employee process it, because there's usually some kind of workflow that they design. And in the past, they've had to purchase licenses for everyone. And in this case, we have now kind of three options. We have, if you can see my screen here, the free option. So anyone on the team, anyone in the company can have an account and comment and look at these files. But of course, now we have a cheaper option for the person that is scanning with the Leo, for example. So with a collaboration license, you can create new projects and you can upload directly from the Leo. And then, of course, then you can have someone download those projects and either process them in Artec Studio or pay for a processing account, which is a yearly subscription. But that allows you to have multiple computers in a way. That one license allows you to process multiple projects at the same time.
A lot of the customers that we deal with use Macs primarily and don't really want to deal with a Windows computer and a Windows operating system, right? So that processing license gives the capability to do a whole lot with just the Artec Cloud. One of the findings that I had after working with this for the past couple of months is it'll do about 80% of what I need Artec Studio to do on a day-to-day basis just inside of the cloud. The tool sets aren't as robust. I'd say it's probably got 60 to 70% of the tools that you're going to get inside of Artec Studio from a just a general scan processing standpoint, right? There are definitely additional reverse engineering tools and texture mapping tools and alignment tools and that sort of thing that are all in Artec Studio. But if we look at just from taking a scan file and turning it into like an STL mesh or an OBJ, it's got about 70% of that inside the software or inside of Artec Cloud. And for a good majority of the projects that you and I work with on a day-to-day basis, that's really all we need. Mm-hmm. So you can translate that back over to a customer that maybe just wants to be able to use their Leo with a Mac, and they can get a very large portion, if not all of what they want to do done through Artec Cloud, which is really impressive.
Yeah. And I'd say the tools that are missing give you a little bit more precision. And then there are some applications like for reverse engineering, you will need the full version of Artec Studio. Yep. Some of those CAD creation tools allow also for more precise alignment. But Artec Cloud surprisingly has everything you need to process scan data to the same accuracy and then get that STL downloaded out. So for people who do inspection or for artists or for educational places, museums, the ability to clean up scan data, align it, process it, further decimate it, texture it, and align it to a global coordinate system. All of that you can do in Artec Clouds. We have had clients that will have an entire studio, a design studio full of Macs, and then they get a laptop just to deal with scan data. Well, now you can have that computer with Artec Studio for all of the features that you need, but now everyone else that has a Mac has access to the scan data and can actually process it on their Macs as well and make any kind of additions to it, add additional scans. It works. The workflow works just like Artec Studio. There's also an autopilot mode that can walk you through teaching this software and using these scanners even more easier for your entire team.
Exactly. Well, and one of the other things that's really useful is with the cloud, you're not tying up processing capabilities on your computer, right? So you can log in, set the tools that you want to run. Like if you're running a global registration and then doing some sort of a fusion and maybe some texture mapping, you can set up those tools, close out of your browser or keep it running in the background. Either way works. And then you can come back and check on it a little while later and have your results. So it does, because of its server-based processes, it does have a tendency to be a little bit slower, right? So it's going to take more time than if you were doing it on your computer. But one of the things that I found is I really didn't care about that from a processing standpoint. A lot of the times when I'm working on a project, I don't need to have that project completed this very moment. I may upload that scan data, go ahead and tell it to run its processes, and then go work on some other things for a little while, log back in and say a half an hour, and then have that data available to me at that point in time. So the ability to just kind of set it and forget it, so to speak, is really nice because you're not waiting on those processes. You're not using excess resources on your computer, especially if you're doing reverse engineering type work, or if you're dealing with other large scan files where you're using a lot of resources on that machine to process that data. If we can take that and farm it out to a server system somewhere, that is really beneficial.
Yeah. So I agree. I mean, for me, it actually seems like it's faster now. When you click a process and from the point you start it and when it finishes, we don't have a good idea of like how long these things take. We don't have reports like we do in Artec Studio. But of course, if you set a whole bunch of projects to do its processes and then you come back in half an hour, you can see that all of them are complete. And you can start that before even you fire up your, full powerful desktop PC. And so, like you said, having that done in the background in some ways saves time because it just changes your workflow a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Well, and if you want to process multiple things at once, right, we don't have to, we're not limited to just one scan file at a time. We can go in, upload 4 or 5 different projects, tell all of them to run through their processes, and then come back and have all that data available to us, at a pretty reasonable amount of time, especially considering the fact that we don't have to sit with it. We're not going through every step and waiting and then doing that over and over again. So you get a lot of efficiencies.
Yeah.
Now, one caveat that I would put in here is on the processing license, it is limited to 20 uploads per month currently, but that still gives you a lot of flexibility to be able to deal with a lot of data. And when I look at the projects that we deal with, even with doing a lot of scanning on a day-in-day basis, generally speaking, we're not going to be dealing with more than, what would you say, 20 or 30 different projects a month?
We haven't run out of our allotment, actually.
Sure.
So, we've done a lot of testing over the past 2 months, and we got some early access to this. So we find that it hasn't been an issue.
Sure, absolutely. Well, and the benefits that you get, like, I know for me, I'm going from place to place, whether it's the office here in Amherst or coming up to see you in Harrisonburg. And with being so mobile, it's really nice to be able to set something up, let it run, and then I don't even have to have my computer. I can go log in, on any computer there in Harrisonburg, check on the data, maybe give it to you to download. And that ability to have scan data accessible from anywhere in the world where you can process it and use it for whatever your use case is, it just takes this flexible environment of, if you look at where we're at, where a lot of people work from home now, you have teams like us where you have people all across North America that are working together on projects. Being able to have a place to quickly store, share, and process that data throughout a lot of people makes everything we do more efficient and opens up time for other things that we may need to do on a day-to-day basis. And that was one of the coolest things that I saw with this, is I didn't have to have my Windows machine running. I personally use a Mac all the time, so I didn't have to have my Windows machine running and sitting there beside it running through a project. I can just log in on my Mac, check on it from time to time, and makes everything feel so much more efficient.
What I take away from that is the ability to store and share is in itself this value that Artec Cloud is bringing, that is an extra in this, that for a lower price than almost the studio software we've had before. So sure. When you're paying for it, you're able to store entire projects. You don't have to have another storing solution. It's gigabytes and gigabytes of data that you'd have to upload to Dropbox, and then you'd have to download it and then open it, unzip it, and all of that takes valuable time. And what this is a solution for all of that.
Sure.
A couple other findings, though, we have is it's only at the moment it only supports 3 scanners. So the Artec Leo, EVA, and the Space Spider.
Yep.
They'll probably expand that in the future. But those are the 3 scanners that you can use with Artec Cloud. We also find that HD reconstruction works in Artec Cloud. So if you upload directly from the Leo, HD reconstruction happens once a file is uploaded. So that's part of the import. You can take your Artec Studio projects that are HD scans and upload them. All of that comes in normally. And then, of course, raw data it is converted in the cloud, and we find that it's very comparable. We don't know all of the settings yet, but it looks like HD data looks very good and is the same as processing it in the Studio software at about a 4 times HD reconstruction level. So
Yeah, so we don't know exactly specifics right now, but it seems like it's doing like a 4x, which is pretty standard for what we're using for HD reconstruction already, right? So
right,
it's
this
not
is
going to
all
give you,
settings.
yeah, exactly. It's not going to give you all the fine tools and tweaking that like Artec Studio 16 now has, where you can get really high resolution HD reconstructions from like the Leo, those really quality samples. But it does give you the ability to work with HD data to get that little extra advantage out of your Leo or your EVA. And specifically right now, we're talking about with the Leo, right? Because with the EVA, if you want to work with HD data, or if you with the EVA or the Spider, we still need Artec Studio just to do the scanning side, right? So we're still going to need an Artec Studio license for those. With the Leo specifically, we can bypass so many things and still get really good quality data. It's a very impressive and interesting workflow to see moving forward.
Yeah, so for applications where someone is measuring things in the field, those measurements in that file, that scan data is processed in the cloud, and when they come back to the office, that's something that's already done. So that's a really new, exciting application for Artec Cloud combined with Leo. For the other scanners, yes, we do need the software, Artec Studio software, to do the scan, but the new update to Artec Studio 16 has the ability to upload that project immediately into the cloud. So you can scan in Artec Studio a number of objects, and normally you'd have to wait and process each one. So either you do all the scans and then you sit back and then have to run through processing everything one by one, which if it's, maybe the processor in your computer is a little bit faster, but overall it's a lot slower because you're having to do one by one with one license. Well, with Artec combination of Artec Cloud and Artec Studio, you can hit upload and then run that processing as you're scanning new scans with either the Spider or the EVA.
Yeah.
So to show you a little bit as we're coming to an end of this video, what this software looks like. As you could see, I've got a Fusion in here, but if I take scans, I can take a look at information on all of that. We encourage you to try out your own free account and look at these features yourselves. But if you haven't done that, you can see that the user interface is slightly different. There is an autopilot mode right here, but what your tools would be normally on the left side are just at the top. And then you've got editing tools down at the bottom here. But a scan like this that's been aligned, you can set to run a global registration on. You can change the settings or leave them default. You can hit start. And then as it's queuing that process, you can immediately then line up the next one. So I don't want to do the align. I want to do the noise removal or outlier removal, as we call it in Studio. So you can hit start on that. And so it queues that one, as you can see at the bottom. And then after that, I'm going to go straight to a Sharp Fusion. And so I can adjust the resolution here. Let's say for this one, actually, I want it to be a little bit looser. And then I can say, make this a watertight model, and then I'll hit start. And so I can now walk away, and all of my list of my processes is here. You can see that they're queued. I can close this window, I can close this tab, and Artec Cloud is now processing my scan data. So after I come back to it, what I will see is a fusion just like this one that I can export, or I can make further adjustments like texturing this file or downloading the entire project if I want to. I can actually convert this to like a studio format and download it back to my PC.
Yep. Yeah, and that's another nice thing that is available in the cloud is being able to do the texture mapping, right? So it'll go through, and I don't know if you've got texture on this part or not, but the texture mapping process is pretty straightforward. Just inside that adjust model drop down menu. Once you have, I think you'd have to pull the Fusion file up. There you go. And then you can just tell it to create texture. You give it the files that you want to use, very similar to Artec Studio. And then it'll let you go ahead and run that texturing tool. You also have an adjust texture tool, which is pretty interesting as well. All in all, I'm really happy with Artec Cloud, and I'm looking forward to making some more videos about it and having some interesting use cases here in the near future.
So we encourage you to go to our website, gomeasure3d.com. Reach out to us if you want a demo for a scanner, and stay in touch.